Ho, 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 comrades! The end of the year is approaching, and while our Western friends are having their Christmas breaks and festivities, Russian people are lying in wait. After all, we have our winter holidays too. However, they are a little delayed in time relative to most of Europe and the United States. Today we'll talk about what ordinary Russian people do on New Year's Eve and Christmas Day, how they prepare for the holiday, how much they celebrate, how much they rest, what they watch on TV, which places they go to, and in general, why do they love this cold, harsh time of the year so much.
Нас 25 тысяч, и мы идем разбираться.
New Year's Eve and New Year public holidays after it are probably the favorite time for a majority of Russians, from young to old. I think this period can only be rivaled by the May holidays, the week between International Workers' Day and Victory Day. I already have a video about how people in the USSR celebrated New Year, where these traditions came from, why New Year's Eve and not Christmas is the main winter holiday, and so on. Today we'll talk not about history, but about the present. Imagine that you are an ordinary Russian person and now it's December 1st. Winter has come, but you are not sad. You know that you only need to wait a month, and the long-awaited New Year will come. What is happening to you and around you at this time? Let's start, of course, with the time period. Formally, New Year's Day is celebrated on December 31st, and Christmas is celebrated on January 7th. But in fact, the period of various celebratory traditions associated with these holidays lasts from the beginning of December until January 14th, until the day of the Old New Year. That is, the New Year according to the Julian calendar. So the first thing you'll notice starting in December is how the city around you will begin to be decorated. Stores will start adorning their windows with garlands and snowflakes, the main streets will be lit up with special illuminations, and huge New Year's trees will be erected in every city. They can be both natural and artificial, usually one huge tree in the central square of the city where the biggest New Year festivities are planned, and smaller trees in other squares. Plus, some businesses also try to decorate trees near their offices or apartment buildings with Christmas or rather New Year lights. As a result, there are hundreds of decorated New Year trees in every Russian city, and probably thousands in Moscow. Some of them have a red star on top, a legacy of Soviet times. Naturally, New Year trees are not the only decoration of cities. Special illumination of buildings, garlands, glowing arches, various art objects. If Russian cities ever look like a winter fairy tale, it is certainly during this period. Also, in all major cities, huge ice skating rinks are created on squares where residents can spend their time. The most famous, of course, is right on Red Square. Not only city streets are decorated, but also apartments, offices and shopping malls. In the latter you can see advertisement New Year banners everywhere, the shelves are filled with special New Year collections, and from the loudspeakers you will hear, of course, her. How could it be anyone else? The average Russian visits these shopping centers quite often in December. First of all, you need to buy presents. New Year's Eve is a family holiday, so presents for the whole family are a must. Going to visit your friends? You need gifts for them too, even for those who are far away. In the USSR, people used to send New Year cards, and it is still a nice tradition for some people. It is also recommended to get everyone at work at least a small accessory with something related to the New Year, otherwise they will feel ignored. And of course, you need to buy everything for the New Year's table. The body of a Russian person is organized in such a way that since early December he feels an irresistible urge to taste Olivier salad, herring under a fur coat, and of course, tangerines. That is why the last week of December in Russian grocery stores is a living hell comparable to Black Friday. Everyone has an urgent need to buy everything at once, so even local traffic collapses occur from time to time. Plus, we should not forget that this is December, and in December it snows in Russia. So for at least a few days in December, Moscow and other major cities are stuck in hellish traffic jams due to snowfall and hundreds of thousands of cars trying to get to the cherished tangerines. My personal record is about 4 hours on the Moscow Ring Road, during which I drove about 10 kilometers. But let's get back to New Year's tradition. So both adults and children are looking forward to the New Year for one more reason. A long holiday weekend awaits them. For children in schools, New Year vacations last 2 weeks, starting from January 1st, and taking into account the festive events in December, more like 3 weeks. For adults, 7 to 10 days. Each year, the state determines the time frame individually, but it is usually the week between December 31st and January 7th, plus or minus 1 day. This applies mainly to workers of public enterprises, holiday for the whole week. If you work for the damned capitalist exploiters, you will get only 2 to 3 days of rest. And poor retail workers usually go to work as early as January 1st or 2nd. In Russia, the annual cycle is used in almost all enterprises, so the end of the year is both stressful and festive. On the one hand, you have to finish all your work and hand in all your yearly reports. On the other hand, you have a large New Year's bonus waiting for you. This can also be considered a kind of tradition. Most employees of large enterprises have an annual bonus. In some places it is so regular that the term 13th salary is in use, as for example in Latin American countries. But employees wait for the new year not only because of the vacation, but also because of the so-called corporativ, corporate party. This is also a virtually mandatory phenomenon. Sometime in the last week of December, your company's management gathers all the employees and throws them a holiday party. It can take a variety of different forms. Either you just gather in your small office, drink champagne and eat sandwiches with caviar, or your company can rent a huge concert hall, or even take its best employees to some countryside resorts and invite Russian pop stars to perform. But the main thing at such corporate parties, regardless of the scale, is the opportunity to get shit-faced at the expense of the employer, puke all over the blouse of a respected accountant, punch your supervisor in the face, and then happily fall asleep with your face in a plate of salad. After all, what happened at the corporate party stays at the corporate party. Children, in fact, also have something like corporate parties, aka New Year matinees. In every school and kindergarten in the last days of December, a costume show is organized with the participation of Ded Moroz, Снегурочка, and the children themselves in different roles. Snowflakes, bunnies, robots. Sometimes schools get creative and offer pupils the roles of roosters and lizards from the famous confrontation. The task of children is to recite a poem, dance or sing a song. The task of Ded Moroz and Снегурочка is to save the new year from the clutches of some villain like Kощей the Immortal or Baba Yaga, played by disguised gym and handicraft teachers. And at the end of the show, everyone goes around the tree and the children get the cherished presents. But now it's December 31st. Parents have come home from work, children have been enjoying the vacations for a few days. What happens next? First, of course, Russian people decorate their apartment with the same garlands and Christmas trees. They used to be natural, now they are artificial mostly, but still. Secondly, of course, you need to set the New Year's Eve table. It's a family holiday, so usually the very night from the 31st to the 1st of January is celebrated in a tight family circle. On December 31st, from the very morning, women prepare an endless string of sandwiches with caviar and sprats, herring under a fur coat, Olivier, main courses, often geese or ducks, and of course, холодец. Don't forget tangerines and champagne, or rather Russian sparkling wine. All these will be in every household. Men at this time are usually either frantically looking for Christmas trees, if not previously taken care of, or frantically looking for fireworks and pyrotechnics, now prohibited almost everywhere due to the situation, or just try to not get in the way. TV is a good distraction for them. On December 31st, all Russian TV channels drastically change their TV program and broadcast only special New Year things. These, of course, include movies. New Year's Eve is traditionally a time to watch good Soviet movies. They are not necessarily New Year's themed. Yes, there is Irony of Fate, which is both a symbol of the New Year and about the New Year itself, Чародеи, a musical comedy about magicians in a Soviet research institute, or Morozka, a traditional Russian winter fairy tale. But the New Year movies also include the comedy Gentleman of Fortune, okay, at least there is an episode with New Year's Eve, and Leonid Gaidai's comedies, most of which take place in the summer, or things like Office Romance and Moscow Does Not Believe in Tears, which have nothing to do with the New Year's Eve. Of course, they also watch foreign movies, either comedies like Home Alone or The Grinch, or strangely enough Harry Potter. A marathon of all the Harry Potter movies is a mandatory attribute of the New Year TV program, but usually not on December 31st, but rather on January 1st or 2nd. Closer to midnight, the movies are replaced by special New Year concerts, which also run on all channels and are usually a rehash of the legendary Little Blue Light. That is, various movie and pop stars sing, dance, laugh and have fun and people watch. Corny, boring, but it's a traditional thing. There is no special dress code for New Year celebrations, although Russians are very attentive to the Chinese calendar and horoscope, and sometimes meet the New Year in the colors of the animal that corresponds to it. 2025 is the year of the green wood snake. So you can dress in green, but it's not mandatory. You can just buy a calendar for 2025 with this snake. By 10-11 PM, the preparations are over and people begin to sit down at the festive table. There they hurriedly eat everything that they have prepared and drink everything that they have bought. Everything but the champagne. It has a special time at exactly 12 PM. At 5 minutes to midnight, the President's New Year's address starts on all channels. This is another tradition that arose after the collapse of the USSR, but the essence is the same every year. It's been a tough year, but we'll rally together and make sure next year will be better. Immediately after the president's address, the Kremlin chimes and the Russian national anthem are broadcast. The new year has arrived. It is at the moment when the chime strikes that you should drink a glass of champagne, and then the new year is officially upon us. By the way, there is a special tradition. You should write your most cherished wish on a piece of paper and then, in different variants, either eat it or burn it and dissolve the ashes in a glass of champagne, drink it between the first and the last chimes, and then it will definitely come true. Then the time for exchanging gifts begins. Children get what they asked for from Ded Moroz, and for this you need to write him a letter, and adults what they get. After that, the banquet and concerts continue, as long as the celebrants have strength. Those who are particularly energetic go for a walk after the feast, either on city squares or just in the courtyards, where they meet their neighbors, talk, launch fireworks, again, forbidden, but it doesn't really stop anyone, and have a good time. It is necessary to have fun to the fullest, because as the famous Russian saying goes, how you meet the new year, so you spend it. Then comes the rough morning of January 1st. The country gets up with a hangover. I once had the opportunity to go downtown at 8 AM on the first morning of January, and at that time it seemed like the zombie apocalypse had arrived, because there was not a single living soul on the streets. But by the afternoon people will start to wake up and finish eating and drinking everything that was not eaten earlier. Traditionally on the 1st and 2nd and 3rd of the month, people start going out to visit their friends or more distant relatives whom they did not see on the 31st. Oh yeah, I forgot. Is everybody celebrating New Year's Eve exclusively at home? Not really. There are a few other options. The first one is to organize a holiday with a group of friends. This entertainment is rather for young people. For this purpose they usually rent either a cottage or just an apartment, get together and organize themselves a new year away from boring parents. In general, the holiday program is the same, but on a larger scale. Everyone eats whatever they can eat, drinks whatever they can drink, and then goes to either hang out around the city streets or sleep with their face in a salad. The second option is to spend New Year's Eve somewhere abroad. Obviously, this is available more for the richest strata of the population. In the past, Christmas tours to Europe were popular, but since 2022 this destination has faded considerably. Well, for those who can afford it, New Year's trip to warm countries, to Bali, the Maldives or at least Thailand, are very popular. This is especially true for celebrities, artists, TV presenters and bloggers. After all, for them December is the most productive month. They worked hard at corporate parties, starting the maximum number of shows, and then with a clear conscience went on vacation for a month in warm regions. Because of this, January is considered a fairly dead season in Russian TV and show business, and on Russian YouTube. Everyone is on vacation, no one is doing or releasing anything, especially since the price list for a live performance on New Year's Eve can reach hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh yes, if we are talking about the cultural sphere, it is impossible to pass by such a phenomenon of recent years as the ballet The Nutcracker at the Bolshoi Theater. To get there on New Year's Eve performance on December 31st is a dream come true for many, and ticket prices usually reach astronomical values. This year, the theater management decided to arrange an auction on them, and the maximum bid for tickets on the 26th, 5 days before the peak, reached 400,000 rubles. Imagine how much tickets cost for the evening on 31st. For those who do not have money for such entertainment, there are many other options. You can go skiing, skating and sledding with your family. In large cities there are winter fairs with hot drinks, souvenirs and street food. Or you can just spend pleasant evenings at home. After all, as I said, you're on holiday for a whole week. All this ideal ends sometime after Christmas. The holiday itself is not celebrated with the same magnitude as New Year's Eve, again due to the Soviet past, where the holiday was practically forbidden. And let's be honest, the Orthodox tradition of Christmas does not fit well with the Russian New Year. After all, before Christmas you have to fast for 40 days. What Russian person can do that and resist the sin of gluttony on New Year's Eve? All these New Year's festivities end on January 13th, with a holiday called the Old New Year. Usually not as festive as the New Year, for many this is a nostalgic family holiday ending the New Year holiday cycle. Ahead is the languorous anticipation of spring. So this is how Russians spend New Year's holidays, with plenty of traditions, family gatherings, corporate adventures and of course tangerines. This period unites people, fills the street with a cozy, festive atmosphere, and despite the frost, makes winter warmer for millions of people. Happy upcoming holiday and may your next year be even better than this one. See you soon! And as always, huge thanks to my biggest supporters: Elizaveta Zakharova, Kirill Klimuk, Zeman Berze, Jimmy Albin, Peter Illich and Marina Holiday.